working hard, but yeah, it's good. It's good fun.
Oh, then thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
So start off with, why don't you give us like the sales pitch? What is Stormworks?
So Stormworks is a vehicle builder game where you can build your vehicles out of kind of like Lego blocks, kind of like brick building kind of thing. And it's really engineering based. It's like robotic parts, and there's a lot of mechanical different parts, like a lot of logical parts and control parts. You can even do some engineering control stuff in Lua, and you're building boats and ships and helicopters and planes, and the theme of the game is Coast Guard search and rescue. So you are operating this Coast Guard service, and there's a world and ocean out there, and things going wrong, and terrible weather and big waves, and you're building these vehicles, and then they're very kind of physics driven. So the way you build them is entirely governs the behavior. There's no kind of like cheating in the code where we're deciding that that's a helicopter or something. It's like it's entirely based on the physical properties of the blocks and so on. So it's there's a really strong feedback in terms of the vehicle design. It's very much a design game as well as kind of like a simulation game as well.
Yeah, and then if that doesn't sound exciting to all you people listening out there, then you might want to seek help, because this is a phenomenal game. I myself am a huge fan of it. So what do you think is something that makes Stormworks special? Now, my personal feelings about this, and maybe you could touch on, is I feel like things can go wrong in this game, and that's not something you really feel often in video games. With a lot of games, I feel like you're in a safe bubble, and things only go wrong in these games when you actively seek to make things go wrong. And I don't feel like Stormworks is like that. Another component to it, I think, is it kind of ties into what I just said. Failure is a very real threat, and it's kind of like always in your mind.
Yeah, I think that's really important to us. Like, first of all, I'll talk about what I think we've really kind of got right, and that's the ocean simulation is pretty cool. Like,
it's miraculous.
If you get far enough out, the waves are just incredibly big. They're like 20 or 30 meter swell. And even if you've got a huge, like 200 meter vessel, it'll still be getting thrown around like crazy. And there's the below waterline stuff where you go below the waterline inside the vessel and there isn't water clipping through. And you can go and you can look at the
That's like my favorite mechanic of this.
It's really rewarding to kind of be putting that stuff in, and I think we still look at that stuff and like, that's pretty cool. So you got the kind of the stormy weather and being out there in the sea and in the waves and the wind and the rain.
It really feels so atmospheric.
I just don't understand. Like, I knew that we kind of were aware of the elements that we would want to make, but it just kind of came together, and like it was a little bit unexpected. Like, wow, this. I haven't really been in the Navy, but I'm pretty sure this is what it must be like.
Oh, that's funny.
Being on a big ship in a storm, like, I don't think anything else has kind of like really captured that in the same way the Stormworks has. And and there's the vehicle builder. The vehicle builder is very well kind of celebrated for being pretty awesome because of the stuff you can do. You know,
from a computer science perspective, I find this game pretty amazing. I mean, I'm a software development major. I'm minoring in computer science. And my favorite mechanic is, I think we discussed it earlier, the water. How the water doesn't clip through walls, and it stays contained, and it morphs to its container in a sense. I've never seen anything like this before. And I'm just sitting there. The first time I witnessed it, I was like, how the hell did they do this? It's amazing, and I feel like it's almost underappreciated, because I sat there and I'm just like, how?
Well, firstly, thank you for noticing, because that kind of feature is a lot of work to get right, and it's, I suppose, for Stormworks, in the context of Stormworks, it's like really important, right? Like,
right.
The idea can go below waterline, and you can design the interior of the hull of your vessel and be able to go down there, and it not to be like the waves clipping through and pushing you around and stuff. Like, it's obviously like a really important part of the game, but intuitively it kind of makes sense. Like, you play another game like, oh, why is the water in here? There shouldn't be water in here. And
right.
Then of course, like with Stormworks, you can also have a water in a container that's been lifted out of the water as well, and it's like a swimming pool kind of, or a bucket of water being lifted out and stuff, and you've kind of got the idea of water being stored inside a container, or a container kind of displacing water and having air inside it. And it's like, intuitively it makes sense, but actually getting that working is ridiculously complicated. And there's kind of like the rendering side to it, and the logical simulation side to it. And the rendering side is that we generate the geometry that represents the volume. So it's like a mesh that the volume of the sealed areas inside a vehicle. And then each sealed area, we render that with the water using the stencil buffer, and it uses the kind of the front face, back face testing. And if it's a front face, it adds one, and if it sees a back face, it removes one. And obviously, if there's a front face, but you also have the depth testing on, so it will basically only if there's a front face but not a back face, it means that there's a hole in the water. That's where the hole should be. That's where the two shapes intersect.
Oh, okay.
And so we do that, and we render that to the stencil buffer, and then the stencil buffer then shows us where the holes in the water should be, and then we just use that information when we're rendering the water. We just don't render the water there, and that cuts the hole in the water. And then you kind of got the simulation side of thing, where we're spatially partitioning vehicles to test if the player or with object or particles or whatever is within the volume of the vehicle, and that then affects the buoyancy of the player, so that the player doesn't just float around in midair when there's no water there and stuff. And obviously, that stuff's like, it kind of comes together, and also then we've got the actual water being rendered, so obviously you can be in a sinking ship and there's just kind of the water kind of creeping up, and that's
you walk down a hallway in this game, you guys. And then you open a door, and then just all of a sudden water's gushing back at you, and it feels pretty cinematic. You're full of panic.
Absolutely, it is cool, but the remarkable thing is that someone's designed that vehicle. That's not been rigged by developers.
Exactly.
Like, you get it in Call of Duty or something, and it's just kind of a cutscene, kind of scripted sequence.
Right, like this is how it was intended, but no, this is dynamic.
Exactly, like simulation based and stuff. It's really fun to work, and really rewarding when it kind of comes together. And so to be sat there being someone who just liked Kerbal Space Program to then have on this kind of journey to basically make the most kind of complex physics simulation and make it work at real-time speed and so on is a bit ridiculous.
Well, I guess I have to ask, what were your grades in physics in your studies when you were in school? We got to know.
I think I got.
Show us your report card.
I was good at maths and physics, but I didn't do computer science. I did architecture, so I didn't.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I didn't start in games until I was 26 or 27, and I'm completely self-taught in terms of programming.
Well, we have a lot of architects at this school. Are you familiar with Mies van der Rohe?
Of course.
Yeah, he is like, this is his home.
I mean, he basically created Chicago. I mean, all of the best skyscrapers are done by him in the 50s and 60s, and
right. He designed our campus.
Really, that's
yeah. He was.
Awesome.
I'm pretty sure he was like the head of the architecture department at IIT, and he designed our whole campus. So yeah, we have a ton. We probably have a lot of architecture students listening. So hey guys, there's hope for you.
Yeah, I loved studying architecture. I really loved it. I think the job for me was just like a little bit different, and I'd always been interested in games. I started making like Half-Life mods when I was 13 and just playing around making really crap stuff.
Nice.
And it was kind of I kind of got to 26 years old, and I was doing architecture, but it's I suppose I was itching to do more kind of creative stuff. And with architecture, there's a lot of like other stuff. You kind of got to do the management, the project management and stuff, these building projects and stuff. And there's a lot of management rather than just being kind of creative. And the building projects take years to build.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of like with something like this, though, you can see your progress right before your eyes, instantly.
Exactly, like, a few hours later, and all of a sudden you kind of the new world, and it's very creative process. And so, yeah, I mean, I went from being a pretty useless, lazy person to being, well, this is my dream. It either happens now, or I'm going to just be doing this and not really, being creative for the rest of my life. So
you've grown up to become the guy who made the famous tutorial boat for Stormworks. That alone is a huge accomplishment. You're the dude.
If that's all I ever do, I'm going to be very proud of that tutorial boat for Stormworks. Thousands of times.
Sup, brothers and homies. I hope everything is good in the hood. Sorry to interrupt, but I have a question. What are some features that we can expect to see in the future?
We're thinking about adding more dynamic weather stuff in. It's something we really want to do is basically add more extreme weather, but also add like a weather simulation, so you can kind of go to the map and see where the wind is, and there'll be like a wind map and a wind direction map. Like a cloud cover map and a rain map. Is that hinting
towards like sailing mechanics, possibly?
I think it's kind of more hinting towards, I suppose...
Because right now for the audience, there's no sails in the game. There's just really engine power.
Yeah, some players have made a pretty good attempt by putting like a wing instead of a sail. They've just kind of put a wing vertically.
Oh, okay.
And it kind of... yeah, I mean, sails might be on the list. It's kind of like, it's one of these things where like, we write everything down and got a huge list of stuff, and sales is quite high on there. And if you look at our Discord polls, we do like a poll every now and again, and that's a pretty good hint as to what we're very open to adding to the game. And often if stuff is voted for more, that usually actually agrees with what we're planning on doing anyway. So that usually works pretty well. And sales is quite high on that list, and we have talked about it. So, that could happen quite soon, hopefully. But again, it may never happen as well, because we haven't actually added it yet, and it's possible it just might not work, and we just can't get it to work well. So, watch this space, I guess.
Well, I think that we're just about coming up on the amount of time that we have. So I'd like to thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm sure people at home are, if they're not sold already, they might want to seek help. How much is Stormworks, and where can they go find it?
I think it's $20-ish, and it's on Steam, on the Steam store.
All right, yeah, so guys, go check it out. Tell your friends. Amazing game.
Well, thank you very much, Dan. Thank you for having me on. It's been an absolute pleasure. It's been awesome.
Yeah, it has totally been for you too. We'd love to have you back someday.